Hey there, comic fam. Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to Everything Comics. And of course, you know what this is. This is the interview with the creators of Canto. I am so excited for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We got an amazing show tonight, and I just want to thank you guys for joining us. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring a couple of guys into the stream. Let's just go ahead and bring them in now. And we have with me today David M. Booher and Drew Zucker, the writer and artist of Canto. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing great. So happy to be here.
That's awesome stuff. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the Canto series, and I'm so appreciative that you guys have made yourself available to be here tonight. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
So excited to be here. Yeah, your enthusiasm is infectious. So it's so exciting to be able to come out here and sort of geek out together on Canto.
Well, I'm trying to develop a job as like your hype man so that I can get on the Canto bandwagon with you guys. But you know, we'll see how that goes.
just bring chalupas. That's all you got.
There you go. So
just bring chalupas.
That was one of the first things I wanted to talk about. I know I sent you guys kind of the story about what happened the other night. We had some fun with Canto. I'm sure. Did you guys both get to watch that?
I watched it and was like, I haven't had Taco Bell in a while, and now all I want is a chalupa.
And of course, I'm watching it, taking notes because I'm doing a school reading tomorrow. Of Canto, in that opening, the same part that you read out loud. So
all right,
this is how you do it.
Well, the person that I did that with is in the chat. My good buddy Bueller from Comics with Bueller. He's kind of helping moderate for me tonight. And we have such a great time. And he doesn't have anything against your guys' book. It's just that when somebody tells him he's got to read something, he's usually kind of resistant. And so I've been trying
to come on.
And I finally got him. So that was a lot of fun.
Listen, give a man a chalupa and you can get him to do basically anything.
There you go.
At least get him to listen.
For sure. You know what the funny thing was about that video that I was kind of surprised at? People like keyed into the fact that I bent the cover over to read. They were railing me on it. I'm like, if you knew how many of these things I've given away to people so that they get a chance to read it, you wouldn't be saying that. So
hey, look, comics are meant to be read, my friend.
Exactly.
I know you can see behind me, we like to encapsulate them in plastic, but they roll them up, put them in your back pocket, bend the cover, share them with your friends.
That's why we have trades.
That's for sure, as they are meant to be, right?
I give my trades away to people, not even Canto, just regular books, just to get people hooked on comics.
There you go. Exactly. I try to spread the comic love as much as I can. So before we get into the interview, just really quick, I wanted to acknowledge some people that are here in the chat. We got Travis M here tonight, Nova69. We have Bruce Eaton. Thank you guys all for joining in. We have Comics with Bueller. My good buddy Bueller's here. Andrew Lopez, Jeff Pixler. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have Headless Hammerhead. How you doing, my friend? My good buddy Brian, Comic Crazy's here. How you doing, buddy? And we got Derek Magnus. We got Jeezy Breezy #1, James Phelps, John Thomas, my good friend. How you doing? Derek Magnus, my brother from another mother. Kirk Ireland. We got McCroskey's Kitchen. How you doing there, Jeff? We got Shattered Glass Comic Reviews. Let's see. We got Trade Paper Dad. We got Epidoxa. And you guys, thank you so much for joining the chat tonight. We're going to have so much fun because we got the creators of Canto here, y'all. And I've been so excited for this. So, no secret how much I love Canto. And I think I pushed this book more than any other book since I've come back into comics. I can't tell you how many times I've told people about the book, given them the trade paperback. I think I should probably buy stock in it so I have enough to just give out. But I really want to let you guys know just how much of a fan that I am. And one of the things I wanted to tell you guys is that, I got my top 10 reads of all time, and Canto is up there in one of my top 10 because of the fact, and I've been reading comics for years. So one of the things that I've always said is that if you have a comic that can touch my heart, then you've got me on board. And one of the things that you guys have done, not just in that first book, but throughout the whole series, with the one shot and also Canto 2, you've touched my heart many times throughout the book. And that's the type of hit that it's given me as such. And if you can do that, you've created magic. And so I just want to thank you both for touching me that way.
Thank you.
I mean, it makes us feel good, right?
Yeah.
Because we just, sort of constantly are working away in our separate little corners, and we're talking to each other, and we make choices all along about things we think will work and that'll connect with readers, visual choices, story choices, word choices. And, it's just always so wonderful to hear that those things are coming across the way that we feel them and that we intend them. So thank you for that. And thank you for sort of using that as a way to talk to other people about the story and bring them in as much as you can. It's really wonderful to hear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and before we get into the interview, I'm going to ask you, David, to give the Canto pitch. As I've heard before, there may be some people in the chat and who will watch the video later who haven't read the book yet. So what is it all about?
Well, Canto's about this little clockwork knight in search of a heart. So his people have been enslaved. They're not allowed to have names. They're not allowed to care for one another. They're not allowed to feel love. When they're taken, their hearts are removed and replaced with clocks. And so when their time is up or their clocks are damaged, they go into the furnaces. But Canto, he defies all of that. He has a name and he's in love with a little tin girl. But when her clock gets damaged beyond repair, he has to go out in his great big fantastical world on a quest to find where they take their hearts to bring hers back to save her. So I like to say it's part fantasy, part adventure, and all heart.
That's amazing. That's almost verbatim the way I heard it.
I told you. I told you before we started. I've done it a couple of times.
It's been practiced once or twice.
Yeah, I can see that. But it's such a heartfelt story. And one of the things that has definitely come out, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you first start reading the book and from your interviews, a lot of the direct influence for this book has come from Wizard of Oz, of course. Of course, that's from what interviews I've seen. That's what David's influence was that he wanted to bring into this book. But then also from Drew, the influence that you wanted to bring in was Dante's Inferno. And I kind of wanted to ask you about, what was that?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so I just wanted to ask really quick of Drew. I have seen like those direct draws from Wizard of Oz being an influence, but Dante's Inferno, I haven't read it in years. All right. So the things that I remember from it was that it was highly imaginative in the journey that he was taking you on. And so there's like all kinds of different things in there. Can you name something directly from the books that we could look at that is a direct draw from Dante's Inferno, besides the overall darkness that he's going through there?
City of Death is a direct pull out of Inferno. The Furies are also a pull out of Inferno. The original concept for Canto was much more. Oz and Inferno were always a part of the original pitch. And a huge part of that was that both are public domain. So we could get away with anything with it. When David came on board, there was a bit more of a shift towards evening out the Oz Inferno influence, because Oz is much more of the realm David was in before he came on board. So the original version of the story had a much heavier Inferno influence, where it was actually set up in layers. And when we restructured the story to what it is now, that kind of story structure changed and instead now there are more nods and hints towards kind of Inferno and details from it. And then as the story's gone on, there's more stuff that kind of appears that digs into paradise and what was the other one, David?
Purgatory.
Purgatory. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, no, the giants that are buried up to their waists are directly from Inferno, outside the city of Dis. The city of Dis design itself, this is something that we've never said on a podcast, I don't think, or an interview. The city of Dis design, there is a painting by Botticelli, I think, about the layers of hell. And it's kind of like this big bowl with all these layers in it.
Right.
And we flipped it over. So, Lucifer is in the bottom layer, the seventh layer, or the ninth layer, whatever it is. And then we flipped the image over, and that's how we designed Dis. It's like an inversion of the layers of Dante's hell. So
interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. So, I mean, I wanted to ask that because, like I said, it's such a highly imaginative telling, and I haven't read it in years. I think the only thing I can remember from reading that book was the fact that in the beginning he gets lost in the woods, and then he gets led, to the nine hells, and then I seem to remember something about a seer or a fortune teller, or maybe a couple of fortune tellers walking back or walking forward with their heads backwards. They didn't, they couldn't tell the future anymore, and so that's kind of like was their punishment. It was right to the whole thing.
I mean, that's I think with Inferno, it's sort of based on my sort of research on it and sort of limited knowledge that I have. My understanding was that one of the reasons it was so popular is because Dante was kind of one of the first people to imagine punishment in hell related to the sin. So I mean, there's the lawyers. I'm a lawyer by training, and the lawyers in Inferno are buried upside down, so their feet stick up and their feet are on fire and they're constantly getting burned, and it's wild. And when I was reading it, it's a very hard read to get through because it's very it's 16th century, so it's a slog to get through. But I found myself reading, and I sort of would go on autopilot, and then I get to this imagery. I'm like, did he just create that image? And I'd go back and I'd read it. It was like the one thing was the Furies were sort of ripping their chests, the flesh on their chests open, and I read through it and I stopped and I had to read again. I was like, I think they're ripping their chests open. So it was when we crafted the story, I think the Wizard of Oz influence really helped us pull it back to an all ages place. It was much more aged up, and we wanted to craft a story that could be much more accessible to sort of everybody. So I think Wizard of Oz was helpful in that way.
For sure. Well, it's definitely fantastic, and I just wanted to kind of ask that because, like I said, it's been so long. And you're right. I mean, when you come with Dante's Inferno, looking at the punishment based upon the sin, that's the first time I ever was introduced to that. And seeing some of the things that they had gone through, and there are other people who have drawn from Dante's. There was an anthology book called Heroes from Hell that had like all these different types of punishments. It was pretty popular at the time, but to hear even just that much deeper that you guys have gone into that helps me to understand a little more where some of these things are being pulled from. So thank you very much for that. So. So far, this has been a highly collaborative book, which I love. And I wanted to hit on your creative process a little bit. I know there's been multiple interviews out there, you guys, on what they do for their creative process. So I'm going to ask a pretty directed question based on things that I've already heard. And so one of the things that is I've seen a lot of comic book scripts, and how far the writer goes into actually directing kind of reminds me of a movie set. I always kind of look at the writer as kind of the screenplay and the director, and I look at the artist usually as the actor and producer. And this collaborative effort coming together is what makes the movie that we're seeing on the page. And so in saying that, I mean, the type of script, the first draft that you bring out, David, how descriptive is it? Or is it maybe that you're not that descriptive and then you guys come and collaborate in the middle? Where's that sweet spot where you guys finally come together and hash it out?
I mean, the process has definitely evolved since we first started. So there's places now where we have a shortcut sort of language that we share, and I know, you know, I can pull images and characters from prior issues, and I don't have to, you know, I can just say we're going to revisit this or remember this or something like that. I mean, you're right that scripting comic this past weekend was kind of fun for me because I spent one day writing a film script and this next day writing a comic script. And the first day with the film script was much easier than the second day with the comic script, because with the film script, you're just basically, you're the architect for the story. In the comic script, you're this writer, you're the director, you're the director of photography, you're the set designer, you're the costume designer, you're the casting director, you're all these things trying to put them on the page. So we've gotten into the groove now where if there's something very specific in my mind that I want to do, I'll put it on the page and I'll be detailed about it. And Drew just promptly throws all that out. But
yeah,
there's always a good starting point, right? But then there's
it's
other
important
times
to have
where,
a point to start at.
But you know, I say that tongue in cheek, but you know, the scripts and the art all look very similar to one another at the end of the day. And then there's double page spreads with action that I just will tell Drew, okay, this is the four knights are on there, 4 Maloreks, and they just are running through the forest, sort of having fun and racing each other. And, you know, I'll talk about swinging off branches and, you know, jumping from one to the other and sort of knocking into each other, something like that. But for me, that's just like, here are some ideas. And then when I get it back, it's, you know, I almost don't want to call out those panels because I want Drew to be able to sort of flex his creative muscles on laying it out. And I don't want to restrict that. He probably drives him crazy, but the stuff that I get on the other end is fabulous. So it's a really effective process, I think, that we have together.
That's awesome. So how do you approach it when you get that first draft in, Drew?
I ignore all of it and I light it on fire. I do a little dance and I send him a video of it. No, no, we have a really good shorthand with each other now, and the scripts are actually really a perfect amount of description for me to be able to get exactly what he wants, or if something needs to change, for me to have a starting point. The hardest things are when it's just they fight, because then I have to figure out the whole thing from top to bottom. But usually David's really good about putting in just like panel 1 is this, panel 2 is this, panel 3 is this. And then from there, that's a starting point to then go, okay, well, we can add, you know, X amount of panels in addition to that original set so that we can now do this. And what if we add this idea in? And it ends up, you know, leading to my thumbnails, which is then where we sit down, we go through the entire thing, top to bottom, from start to finish for the issue. He gives me any notes that he has, or if there are any points of confusion where maybe I thought something worked, it didn't work, it's not, you know, it affects something down the road. And then from there, it's, you know, off to actually drawing pages.
Interesting. One of the things that I love about the Canto comic is just how truly collaborative it is. I mean, there are pages where you got this wonderful story being written, and the words coming off the page are touching me. But just as much, there are big chunks of the book where it's just visuals. And I have been so surprised at how much expression, Drew, you're able to get out of the eyes of these characters. It really lends to what's going on. And speaking about that, one of the things that I think is pretty awesome. I know in another interview you guys talked about pacing, and I know with me, because I read so many comics, I do weekly reviews.
Right.
It's very easy to very passively read a comic if there's no words on a page. To go past it really quickly. And I love with Canto how much it makes me slow down, so that I immerse myself in what's going on beyond just the words when those pages come up. And so you guys have done a really, really good job in the pacing of it to allow the reader to slow down when they need to. And I think that's one of the beauties of this. But one of the things I also wanted to talk about is, can you talk about the George and Ringo of your band? I mean, we always get, Paul and John here, but you also have two others that have collaborated with you from the very beginning. Vittorio Estoni and your letter, which I think is a company. But if I remember right, there's a certain person in that company that's predominantly worked on the book. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Darren Bennett, who's been wonderful and been part of the process all along. His studio is And World Design, and they kind of have stepped in to do the sort of initial lettering. And Darren is supervising that, and he always goes through everything. Mm-hmm. So between him and Vittorio, yeah, you're right. It's the Beatles. You can't have a hard day's night without all four of us there. So
no.
They're just amazing.
Just to plug Darren. Darren won an Eisner last year. For
he's nominated.
He was nominated,
right?
There were a few books included in this because he works like an animal, but Canto was part of that, and it was so totally deserved. Lettering kind of gets overlooked in the comic industry. A good letterer can make or break you, and there are a lot of instances, especially in that first volume, that are just Darren firing on all cylinders. And then Vittorio's Vittorio. He's our amazing little Italian.
Now, does he live in
He lives in Italy.
He lives in Italy. I got introduced to him by Tim Daniels, who works over at Vault. And I think Vittorio just adds his own storytelling to the book with color. He's amazing. Even when we get something back and it's not necessarily right, we'll give him notes, and within a day we have changes, and it's almost like, oh, okay, yeah, that's perfect.
That's amazing. And him being based in Italy, and then I'm sorry, I spaced on the guy's name you said was your letterer.
Darren. Darren Bennett.
And where's Darren located at?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. So you guys are like all over the world here, and creating this collaboration that is so amazingly great. And I think it's amazing what we can do with technology nowadays, and to be able to have that type of collaboration. But I just wanted to mention them because they are a part of what makes Canto so great. And so thank you for at least, talking a little bit about them. I'd love to get those guys on an interview sometime to get their take and, give us the down and dirty of David and Drew on the other side of things.
Listen, Darren could give you a masterclass in lettering in comics. He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah, we don't make it easy for him.
No.
So I just want to jump in, Bob, because there was a question from Zombie X Dance about the Signature series from Collector's Paradise. Are you familiar with that?
I am not. I know that
Okay.
I've seen a couple of times where you've announced that you're going to a particular store to do signings.
Yeah, so the backstory is there is a shop that's in Pasadena, California, which is just right down the street from where I live.
Mhm.
And during the pandemic, he decided it because there's no in-person signings. He decided for local creators, he would create the subscription service that the creator comes in when each issue comes out, signs a bunch of them, and you can pre-order the whole series, and you can get him to ship them to you all with signatures on the cover. So we did that for Canto 2, and it was extremely successful for him. And the question in the comments was, are we going to do that for Canto and the City of Giants coming out in April? And I just wanted to give Bob the exclusive on this. So the current plan is for Ed at Collector's Paradise to offer the signature series for Canto and the City of Giants, which is the 3-issue miniseries. Canto 3 is a 6-issue series that's coming out starting in July, and he's planning to offer a signature series for that. And the big breaking news is, he's probably going to kill me for saying this, but bring it on, Ed. The big news is if you pre-order the signature series for all 9 issues that are coming out in 2021, we're going to have an exclusive signed Canto print that you're going to get along with pre-ordering, and it's just at cover price for all these issues. So it's comicsandcards.net is his website, and keep your eyes out for that. It should be going up very soon.
Very cool. Well, I'm very happy to hear that. I will be first in line. Most definitely. Yeah. And thank you very much for acknowledging the chat. It's hard for me to see it because I have my list of questions sitting right in front of that part of the screen. And so it's not that I'm trying to discount everybody in the chat, but I'm trying to stay on track. So thank you very much for acknowledging.
Sure. I got it right here on my screen. So
that's awesome. But at this particular point, before we move on, we have a giveaway tonight, don't we, David?
We do. We have the first giveaway.
Awesome. So you guys in the chat, listen to this.
So we're going to be giving away the Canto If I Only Had a Heart trade signed by me. And we're going to have a little trivia question for you all. And it's related to what we have been discussing. So Canto came out in 2019. This might require you to know some information, but how many years elapsed between the very first publication of Wizard of Oz and the very first publication of Canto in 2019?
Oh, I know that.
I mean, it requires you to know when Wizard of Oz was first published, right?
I have to do some math, but I know when both years were published. So, ooh, you guys, all you got to do is
easy math. It's easy math, Bob. It's easy math.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, I got it. All right.
We got 120, 100, 25 years, 70, 90. Are we good?
A couple of them are close.
It's so close.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta say, it's mind-boggling that Wizard of Oz is that old.
Yeah,
it still is around the way it is.
Should we give it to Headless Hammerhead?
He's the closest, that's for sure.
Oh wait, no, Zombie Dance got it.
Yep, there it is, right there.
So the original Wizard of Oz was published in 1900. Mm-hmm. And Canto came out in 2019, so 119 years. A little fun fact, which I'm going to take credit. This is how I count it. This is so nerdy. The original Wizard of Oz was copyrighted in 1899, so Canto came out exactly 120 years after Wizard of Oz was first copyrighted. So
nerd,
so nerdy. But it's like a mix between nerdiness and A-type personality. I wanted that 120.
Right.
So who do we get? Who got it?
So this one goes to
Zombie Dance, right?
Zombie X Dance. So Zombie X Dance, if you could send me your information at bullseyebobec@outlook.com. There will also be a link down in the description after this video posts. Send me your shipping information, and David will get that out, and I'll make sure that you get that.
Bueller, if you're listening.
Bueller just called you 120.
If you knew our show, he always rails me about my age. So quiet in the cheap seats. Oh, we have a lot of fun, you guys.
All right.
All right. So let's go ahead and get back into the interview here really quick. Now in Canto 2, I loved some of the callbacks to the Mysterian Witch and the Furies and of course the Giants. Now the Giants were comical, but broke my heart that when you revealed them in Canto 2. And you know that's the magic of this book. I mean, you can just hit them heartstrings right where it counts. But listening to past interviews, you're setting up this world to expand it, and that means allowing others to come in and write and do the art. Now,
there will not be any more other, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, Drew, aside, nobody's coming in to write this.
There is a very honest answer about how that happened, but yeah.
So the question is, I mean, are you creating the background of the world and characters as such that you can hand it off to others and say, this is your playground to play within? Or are you maintaining the creative control all the way through? What's the approach you're taking on planning the expansion going forward?
I mean, I'm still involved with City of Giants, which is our first sort of foray into bringing on other, team members and a guest artist in Sebastian Perez, which we've been posting some of the preview artwork for City of Giants, and he's just doing a spectacular job. And that's one of the reasons we brought him on. I think Drew and I both agree that his sort of style and his sensibility, it feels different, but it feels very much in line with what we want to do and how we want Canto to feel. So I'm still involved and I'm still writing the script. So I have I have a keen eye of the world building and the story progression and that sort of thing. And Drew is also involved in in supervising scripts and the art. So I would say it's a measure of seeing what new and different points of view we bring in with new and different team members, while also, being involved ourselves to make sure that it just sort of stays along the plans, sort of stays within the universe that we've currently built. So far, it's been pretty easy. Sebastian has been really sort of seamlessly integrated into what we want to do.
That's amazing. I mean, I have a further question about this, but I want to ask Drew, how does it feel to take your baby and hand it off to somebody?
Uncomfortable. So I like, if I'm being really honest about it, it's not easy. Especially because I'm one of those people that when I read an entire arc of a book, I want it to be the same artist. And I love Canto. This was also a decision to keep me from losing my mind a little bit. At the end of Canto 2, I was very tired, and we knew what we were setting up for Canto 3 and what it would ask of me. So, we really loved it with Sebastian, because if I have to relinquish control like this, to hand it off to somebody that cares as much as he does and takes the responsibility and has the understanding that, we're handing you something that is very near and dear to me and David, and he takes that super seriously, that's all I can really ask for of him. And, it's been interesting to sit on the other side of it and be like, okay, this is how I would do it, but Sebastian's also got the way he does stuff. And we've had to kind of integrate into his process of how he works. And now I think we're about an issue in terms of the work that's done. David and I both have a pretty good sense of how he works, so there's definitely a comfort level that's there with when we get pages from him.
That's great. I mean, I asked that question because there's so many artists out there that are work for hire, and they don't have a choice. And so, you're actually making the decision yourself to go ahead and hand off, that ability for somebody else to create. And so, I just kind of wanted to get your feeling on that. And it sounds like it actually excites you going forward to see, where you can go. And that's great that you got to take a break as well. So,
yeah,
good on you for doing that.
Well, yeah, and Drew has the laboring oar. Scripts I'm in double page spread, like I was saying. I could do a paragraph and I'm done, and I just move on. And it takes Drew days to draw something that involved. But my perspective on Canto is, you look at everything from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to everything Marvel does, DC does. They bring new artists in all the time to put their own takes on these characters. And if we are doing our jobs right, Drew has designed, and I've written a character that that we can bring in other people to put their takes, and you still know it's Canto. It's stylized. It might be somebody's different point of view on him, but you still know it's Canto. And 2 years from now, when Canto 4 wraps up and we've sort of told the story, the initial story we want to tell about Canto and his quest, when we're looking to the future, that's what I want. I want a character that bring in a new writer, bring in a new artist, create a new story. We still get to be involved in that, but somebody else is taking the laboring oar to bring their perspective to this character in the story. And this, we're dipping our toes into that in City of Giants. But it might foretell some choices that we make down the road when we're sort of moving on to different things that we want to do. We want Canto to stay alive and active and all that stuff. And those are things that we'll start thinking about as we go along.
Interesting. Now, the only reason why I brought it up was because at one of the interviews made it sound like, you were writing the backstory of Arcana as such, that there are other stories to be told besides Canto inside of this world. And I was just wondering if you were creating it such that you could open up other parts of the world to other people and say, here's your playground. I don't know if you were doing that type of thing or not. So that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah. Well, if we're doing our jobs right, this is, there's playground equipment everywhere. You choose. You want to go on the merry-go-round, you want to go on the jungle gym, the bars, whatever you want, the swings. Let's go explore that corner. We don't know what's going on over there.
I want the roller coaster, baby.
Go on the roller coaster. Yeah. No, we're on the roller coaster.
For sure. That's awesome. So I saw your interview on Thinking Critical, and you talked about comic book pacing. Now that your first trade has come out and the second one is on its way, have you looked to changing your pacing at all, just based upon that?
Yes.
No.
No.
Only reason why I bring it up is because you had brought up a really good point on there, is that comic book pacing is very important. And when it comes to the majority of people who are picking up the first arc now, they don't have the wonderful experience of waiting month to month to get those issues. Of course, that's kind of a bear for some of us who can't wait to get the next issue. But there is a thing about pacing when it comes out month to month that is different. One of the most famous comic books out there by Marvel was X-Men's Dark Phoenix saga. And I constantly tell people that it's much different reading it issue to issue inside of a trade than it was when it first came out and you had to wait month to month. Back then, there was a magic to it that came about because of having to wait. And I don't think people are getting the same effect out of it as we did when it originally came out. And so based upon that, I wanted to ask that question. I mean, have you looked towards changing pacing at all, since it looks like going forward, the majority of people are going to be reading it from issue to issue inside of the trade rather than when the floppies first come out. And so just didn't know if you had looked towards changing it all.
I mean, I guess not for that reason. For us, it's all about storytelling and what's most effective.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing a single issue comic, you have to end on a note that from a very practical perspective, that gets people to come back and get the next issue. And so if we did a OG original graphic novel in the Canto verse, pacing would be different. It'd be just to pick it up. But, these collections of single issues into trades allows the story to live for much longer than it would live in single issues. But ultimately, this Canto is a floppy story, and that's how we're going to continue to tell it as long as we can.
Very good. That's awesome. I just wanted to bring it up because I noticed myself reading it both ways. There really isn't much difference. I mean, I enjoyed it both ways, and I tried to put myself in the position of somebody reading it just straight through, and they're going to get gold either way. So just really quick, I wanted to acknowledge, I just saw we just got a super chat from Headless Hammerhead. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate you very much. Woo! Okay, so I also wanted to ask this question, and this has to do with the comics industry, and I don't think you guys get asked these type of questions very often, so I wanted to throw this out there. So let's just talk about the future of comics for a second. COVID has dealt the industry a number of blows, as you know. Mainly the local comic shop, and distribution is something of an issue. It has been for years. What would you do to change the industry going forward to ensure that comics flourish? And is Canto the book to do it, and why?
True.
Canto is the book to do it.
Come on.
I'm not allowed to say some of the things I would say in terms of what needs to change in the industry because it would get me into trouble.
Oh, okay.
As far as the pandemic goes and comics and the shops, this industry is obviously saddled by Diamond. In terms of we have one distributor sort of deal, and obviously the DC stuff kind of changed some of the direction that goes with that. As far as the pandemic goes, my hope is that the shops kind of learned that you can't just rely in one area to do this industry. This industry is a nearly $1 billion industry now, I think, but the reality is that it's not that large of an industry. It's still way too small, and it's not sustainable. So the industry needs to figure out a way how to grow itself. My hope is that with the pandemic that people take away some of the lessons from it, that you don't need to be beholden necessarily to your local brick and mortar store, that there is a way to do direct to consumer. There is a way to get creators into shops that we wouldn't necessarily be able to come to. I think online conventions is a great thing. I'm looking forward to conventions coming back in person eventually, but there is something to be said for the person who lives in Indiana and can't go to Comic-Con to be able to have something of that experience, or for us to be able to set something up with that person's shop and interact with people who would never get to interact with us. That's sort of my hope, is that the industry as a whole can kind of break out of its very narrow mindset for itself and start to grow beyond just the direct market. I think the direct market is completely essential to the whole thing surviving, but ultimately it's gonna have to grow itself, and it can't just keep doing what it's been doing.
Yeah. Well, if they would produce cloning and they could put like 25,000 of me out there just giving Canto away, maybe.
That'd be awesome.
Give each one 10 copies, 250,000 copies right out of the gate. Love it. Love it. I mean,
it's a marketing thing. It's a marketing thing. It's a logistics thing. I look at something like Harry Potter, and the proof is there that these things exist. And part of what we set out to do with Canto, was to create a book that would not only do well for the retailers, but would help to bring new readers into the industry. And new readers are going to be kids. And we want, so the book is meant to function simultaneously as a piece of entertainment, but also it's something that maybe gets that kid who had a hard time learning how to read, but comics are now their gateway into learning how to read or enjoying that. Because that was me. I was that kid. I didn't like reading growing up, but comics were a great middle ground for that. I think the industry needs to look more towards that and embrace it more, that this is the future of how you grow. If you continue to just do the same thing, eventually we're going to hit a wall. I think we've kind of hit that wall a few times already, but it's going to take kind of a cultural mindset shift to get it there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I mean, and again, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insanity.
Right.
And, that's the kind of place that we've been in for a long time. On the Coffee and Comic show that I'm on Monday mornings with my good buddy Bueller, we've talked about this many times, that, how do we get the kids back into reading comic books? And this is exactly the place where, the groundswell begins.
Right.
And so I love that Canto is an all ages book. But there's a lot of work to be done there to get, kids back into comics. And that's where our lifeline is. And so great answer. David, do you have anything to add on this?
Nope. Drew is the guy shakes fisted cloud.
One.
Yeah. Guy shakes fisted cloud. About this. So
I borrowed David's soapbox.
There we go.
we just kick it back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got this one. I just get up.
There we
back
go.
to him.
I hear you. So we got one more giveaway, don't we, David?
We sure do.
Why don't we go ahead and head that up? You guys pay attention.
So I was looking at the comments, and it looks like Zombie Dance didn't even know he was winning something. He just knew the trivia. And he already has a signed copy of the trade from Collector's Paradise. So Zombie Dance, do you want me to think of another question and give it away to somebody else? We'll wait for him to respond. Okay. If he's still listening. Yes, we have, with the trade for Canto 2, The Hollow Men comes out in May, but we don't have it in hand yet. So the single issues 1 through 5, Canto 2, The Hollow Men, signed by me. The question is, the title, The Hollow Men, was inspired by a poem by this poet.
I know it. Come on, somebody.
Anybody? The Hollow Men.
Dig deep on the literary stuff. It's all we do.
I think it's an amazing pull.
It is a poem that is an allusion to, or there's reference to scarecrows, stuffed men, in this poem. And I've said this before, but the fun, Joshua Brown, you got it.
Joshua Brown,
Derek, no, who got it? Oh my gosh, everybody gets it now. 62 Lefty Blues looks like was first up.
I like John something.
John something. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's always safe. Yeah, T.S. Eliot. It was a poem from 1925. It is there's reference to scarecrows, and again, I'll just nerd out. There's a lot of allusions to Dante's Inferno in The Hollow Men, the poem, And there's some scholarly analysis that there is an allusion to the Wizard of Oz in the poem. And the naming convention for Canto 1, Canto 2, Canto 3, and Canto 4, which have been announced, is If I Only Had a Heart, which is allusion to the Tin Man, The Hollow Men, which is allusion to the Scarecrow, Lionhearted, which is an allusion to the Cowardly Lion, and A Place Like Home, which is a reference to sort of Dorothy and her journey in The Wizard of Oz. So that's your TED Talk. Thank you for coming.
Nerd!
Looks like 62 Lefty Blues was definitely the winner. 62 Lefty Blues, congratulations. Do me a favor and send me your address and information. What's that?
62 Lefty Blues. Dennis Hopper quotes it in Apocalypse Now, and Apocalypse Now is a sort of new take on Heart of Darkness, which itself is, refers to Dante's Inferno. So, well done.
Heart of Darkness, the most depressing movie you'll ever watch.
Ever.
Apocalypse Now, yeah.
Apocalypse. Every time I watch it, I go back to it maybe once every year and a half, 2 years. I finish watching it, sit back and go, God, yeah, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I guess the lesson here, guys, is there's no new stories. There's just new ways to tell them.
So, there you go.
Shakespeare beat everybody to everything.
That's awesome stuff. And Heart of Darkness, the documentary that goes along with it, is just as depressing. Just want to say that.
If you want to watch Francis Ford Coppola lose his mind,
right?
Yeah, like straight up, you're watching a mental breakdown.
So 62 Lefty Blues, send me your information to bullseyebobec@outlook.com. I will leave the email address down in the description later on after the video posts, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. And congratulations to you again. And David, thank you very much for giving these great giveaways for us tonight.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Awesome stuff. So I got a couple more questions before we let you guys go. One of them is you guys have a pretty cool fan base out there, and there are a lot of us who are waiting for Canto merchandise. There have been a few things that have come about from private parties, like Christmas ornaments and mini statues, which I hope.
I gotta dig in here.
Okay.
This is
I finally
the
get
commission.
Oh, I want it so bad.
There may be. It was limited to 10 that I commissioned, and they're all in private collections except one.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you also mentioned that you'd love to produce a kid's book called Canto and the Malarex. How close are we to getting Canto merchandise, or can you give any type of sneak peek at what we might be getting soon?
That's been a fun journey.
Yeah, it's always a challenge because Canto's fan base is really devoted. We're still trying to grow it, so Bob, everybody you talk to, everybody you give the trade to, it's just is so helpful to us to sort of get these kind of extra things, merchandise, spin-offs, all those things off the ground. With that said, we've been talking to a lot of different folks about things, and we really hope that in 2021 that there is an opportunity to get some merchandise out there, starting small and growing it. Yeah. Just getting those opportunities. I think when conventions come back, it's going to be a lot easier for us to have those conversations and build those relationships that we need to have in place to be able to get this all off the ground. So we are working our tails off behind the scenes to get those things done. And you're starting to see a little bit. I mean, we had these pins that we did, which were fantastic. And that was sort of our first foray into it. So I would say stay tuned because things are in the works, and we hope to have them to everybody as soon as we possibly can.
That's awesome. I can't wait. So cons are a great question. So where can we see you guys this year? Are either of you appearing at any cons in the near future.
Are there cons in the near future?
There are a few that have been announced at the end of the year that are possible, but let's just face it, most of them we're not going to be seeing. So, but I just wanted to know if you were scheduled for any of those.
Not currently
No.
scheduled. So I mean, it's hard to commit to sort of anything from both sides, us or cons, because I don't know if it's going to be canceled or what. So I would say probably starting around October, if things go according to what we all hope. Starting in October, New York City scaled down. Maybe there's a Baltimore scenario where Baltimore Comic-Con is possible in some way. San Diego just announced today that they're doing a smaller event in November. I don't know how they're going to approach that, and I don't know if we would fall within the category of creators that would be able to sort of elbow our way through there to get a spot. So I'll say, much like the merchandise, I will say we're going to fight our hardest to make appearances, because I know there's a lot of people who collect these issues and would love the opportunity to sort of chat about them and get some signatures and just sort of be with like-minded fans that's not all virtual. So we will do
miss
it
you guys.
Oh my gosh.
We do.
We had a 2019 San Diego Comic-Con that was just extraordinary. And to think that was the last big con that we were both at New York. And to think those are the last two that we were able to do in such an extraordinary way.
Yep.
And then to have it all sort of put on hold. We hear you, and we're trying our best to get out of our houses to come see you.
My buddy Bueller's is a joker.
Oh, I want some. If you
really,
if
where'd you
made
get
them,
them?
I want to set.
But I bring that up because I'm chomping at the bit for a con, and of course, you're probably not going to get very many of them by the end of this year. I didn't know if there was possibility you guys have been signed up for anything, but I just really I can't wait to meet you guys in person. It's going to be amazing. And then here's a great question from Sleepy Reader. He says, "Will you put a character based on Bullseye Bob in a future Canto story?"
I mean, pointy ears and blue skin, and Bob's likeness right there.
Always on the hunt for a chalupa.
There we go. The chalupa Polarex. There you go.
Oh my gosh, we'll draw him as like some sort of elven race, and he'll have a belt, but instead of like weapons, it's just chalupas.
Chalupas in comics.
roll a comic book up in his back pocket, like in parchment.
Okay, so I have one more question for you guys before we start to wrap this up, and I'd like both of you to answer this question. How has Canto changed your lives?
I mean, I have to put up with talking to Drew every single day, so my life has never been
significantly worse.
It's such a hard question, but I'll be totally honest with you. It's been an incredible journey, and it's really moved things for me personally in a direction that I think we're going to start seeing. I'm very excited about what's shaping up to be a great year in 2021 for me personally. So it has changed everything. It was 3 days when that first issue 1 came out in June of 2019. Mm-hmm. It was over the course of 72 hours that it was night and day. So.
Yep. Same thing. Canto is the culmination for me of 10 years of work.
Same.
And like David said, over the course of 3 days, we watched all of that work kind of come to fruition in a really amazing way. And we were aware of it, and I don't think it really dawned on us until we went to San Diego, and our signing just kind of blew up on us. It has, it's given both of us footing in the industry that we probably never could have imagined that we would have. and to have it be this project that did it is just, you know, one of the crowning achievements of my life personally.
Yeah. And it's a huge amount of luck and being in the right place and hitting at the right time. But I don't want to undersell the passion that we had for telling this story and telling this character's journey. And I think that, I hope, and what I've heard from a lot of people is it comes through on the page. And so that's, I think, a big reason why we were successful is because we loved the character as much as we wanted everybody else to love him. And we just are very, very fortunate to be in a place where it feels like everybody does sort of have all linked arms together. And, you know, if anybody hurts Canto, we're going to riot. And so, you know, I think that's, and it feels, and it's just, it warms my heart to be in that place with such support for somebody who's a fictional character, but who's so close to me and Drew.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, mission accomplished, guys. You guys have done an amazing job in bringing out this character that has touched not just my life, but so many other lives. I can't wait to see where you guys take it next. You got a lifelong fan here for sure, and I hope that I can invite you guys back to come back on the show after we get some of the future stuff to come out. And so before we close it up, I'm going to talk about some of the other dates as far as when things are going to be released. But do you guys have anything else that are in the works or anything else that you want to tell your fans before we end tonight?
We are furiously at work on new issues. That's why we brought Sebastian in for Canto and the City of Giants, so Drew and I can really focus on Canto 3 when it comes in July, and we're very excited about what that story is going to look like.
I read the outline and went, I can't believe this is my book that I get to work on, and was like, I can't wait to draw this stuff. Like, that's great. There were specific scenes in the outline that I was like, let's go. I'm ready.
Oh, wow.
That's the nicest thing he's ever said to me. So you all were witnesses.
And yet every time we do an interview, it's always the nicest thing I've ever said to you. So I'm not nearly as mean to you as you like to think I am.
Wait till the cameras go off, people. Wait until the cameras go off.
Well, thank you guys.
Oh God, my feelings.
Thank you guys very much. I mean, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. And I do appreciate you all coming on tonight. So everybody, just to know, Canto and the City of Giants goes on sale April 12th. I'm pretty sure you can still get orders in with your local LCS. Canto 2 and the Holloman trade paperback goes on sale May 12th at your LCS also. Get your orders in for that. And then Canto 3, as you heard, will come out in July. We don't have a date yet on that, I don't think. And then we'll get, are you going to do a one-shot or an interim between Canto 3 and Canto 4? Because that seems to be what you've been doing.
You know, I've gone a little bit back and forth on it. Right now, the current plan is to go through Canto 3, 6 issues. And by the time we get to the end of Canto 3, story-wise, you'll see that it's like momentum is right into Canto 4. So there may not be a space to breathe and do a side quest.
Understood. I'm ready for whatever you guys are bringing out. And so, David, Drew, thank you so much for coming on tonight. You guys have been so gracious, and I really appreciate you guys. Really excited for what you guys are going to be putting out in the future. And thanks again so much.
Thanks for having it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Your passion is amazing, Bob. Thank you.
Come on.
Come on.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for joining in tonight. I'm going to go ahead and end this here now. As always, remember to support your local comic shop and Excelsior. We'll see you, folks.
Bye, guys.